This is the Almost Daily ZenCast. Hello, and namaste. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I am your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's get started.
Greetings and salutations, friends and internet fam. It is Monday, March 22nd. Trump didn't magically get inaugurated on either of the three special dates prophesied, and we face a critical moment in our COVID-19 pandemic lockdown struggle. And the struggle is real, folks. As always, friends, my humble gratitude for tuning in. And an honest recognition that whatever you think is going on, this pandemic lockdown situation has caused people a lot of suffering for a lot of reasons on a lot of levels. So let's start off the show with a brief moment of silence and then a bit of music, and we'll dive into today's opinion talk show content in honor of those who've passed and or just generally have had a shitty time. A moment of silence. Thank you for joining me in that. And as promised, a bit o' music. DJ Zed, Dreamscapes of Cyber Electro, a Cisco Electro-Fanatic Remix Live audio entertainment track. Welcome back, folks. Thank you for that audio cleansing of the palate. DJ Zed, always appreciated. Swipe that off the list. Friends, internet fam of around the world, we have crossed quite a set of milestones, not the least of which is that we are now well past a year into the latest possible reasonable starting date for all this madness. As far as I'm concerned, like, I've been stuck at home pretty much since my birthday 2 birthdays ago. My birthday's right after New Year's, although I'm weird and awkwardly paranoid about giving that information out. In this day and age, it's early enough that I consider it all one big holiday. And pretty much from day one of 2020, the world has been a dumpster fire train wreck of crazy. And we got to keep a sense of humor about it, right? So I beg you to indulge me, rather. I indulge in asking you to indulge me, dear friends, as we address the following factoids. You know, let's not get, like, one of the greatest sort of, what am I trying to say? One of the easiest things we can fall into is letting this stuff get under our skin. That's what I'm trying to say. And there, down that path, one can find all kinds of pain and sorrow and madness. But it is also, I feel like I'm not making any sense. It is also fair and correct and right and true to try and, contend with these things up front and not avoid them. Which is why I've struck the balance by only haphazardly addressing these concerns on occasion and not doing it every week or every day. But I turn to what I hope remains to be a reliable resource, worldometers.info, for their nonpartisan tabulation of the most recent numbers. And I always like to click over to the yesterday tab, regardless of which list I'm looking at, because that way I know it's a whole complete day's worth of information. So as of yesterday, folks, ranked according to new deaths associated to or attributed to COVID-19. And yes, for all those who may be relatively new to the show and may be clamoring to tell me all about the conspiracy theories about how the death counts are wrong, I've heard them all, cutting both ways. There's conspiracy theories claiming that the death count is inflated, and others retaliating, saying that it's actually being undercounted and we should be more concerned. Regardless, I consider this list to be a happy medium, and has seemed to be reliable in its consistency. For all those who've never been on an episode where we go and visit this page and talk about this information, it is tabulating estimates and not to be considered by any way, shape, or form like a final result from official sources. They calculate their best guess estimate based on multiple sources, etc., and then they update accordingly. As of yesterday, according to worldometers.info, these are the world rankings on new death counts. Brazil, number 1 in the world with 1,259. Mexico, number 2 with 608. USA falling back quite a bit, which in this case is a good thing, I suppose. No offense to anybody on either side. Falling back with only 455. It's not that long ago that it was still hovering at about 1,000. In fact, this 455 for yesterday may be a bit of an outlier. Out of curiosity, let's go back 2 days. No, it seems to be part of a growing trend. I wish there was like weekly numbers and week over week numbers comparison on this site right here, but there isn't. But 2 days ago, USA was in number 2 slot with a grand total for the day of 792 people passing away, attributed to COVID-19. Now, there's a lot of people pontificating a lot of opinions about COVID-19. And then there is also the additional issue of all the conflicting conspiracy theory content. If you haven't heard it, although I pimp it out every time I talk about Corona, I humbly invite you to go visit my Please Pick a Lane episode. I don't think I have the word please in the title. It's just Pick a Lane. Coronavirus Conspiracy Theories, Pick a Lane. Something like that. It's down there, scroll. It's from very early on in the whole adventure of going on this journey. And by that I mean a year ago. Here's where I'm at, right? It's my show. After surveying the various realms of information available, right? My concern continues to be, what if this is actually a very real virus, and that despite whatever corruptions and incompetence are evidently a part of the global response, to each their own, in each nation, a unique combination of corruption and incompetences seemingly being worked into everything. No offense, everybody. The prevailing social information ecosystem exhibits enough examples of overtly manipulative content that, as I've openly questioned before, seems to have no other purpose other than to encourage people to expose themselves to the highest, possible risk level in order to do what? I don't know. Ensure that this communicable disease gets a good run? I don't know. I don't pretend to know. I don't run around pretending to know things that I do not know, friends. I am perfectly comfortable sharing my opinion and my speculative thoughts on what's going on in the world. And here is my my most recent thing. As I warned on this show, way ahead of the curve, the virus has mutated, has expressed multiple mutations. We're not talking about a handful here, right? All the COVID deniers can claim that there's been no isolation of the genetic information all they want. But the scientists are clearly making a case for hundreds of identified genetic variants, and that a handful of those are seemingly extra problematic. Ooh, that didn't come out right. Are problematic in a sort of extra kind of way. Typically, in very Trump... Excuse me one second. No, I don't have the Rona. I don't believe. I'm having one of those sore throat days. Didn't warm up properly. Was hitting my breakfast pipe a little too enthusiastically right before recording. people are getting sick and people are dying. And in typical Trump-topian fashion, the United States has spearheaded a cultural movement of negligence, of criminal negligence. Now, we can take into account and acknowledge all the argumentation that, for better or worse, assuming it's real, this disease, this virus, and the disease it causes, to be more specific, right? Because it's a viral colony that antagonizes the body and can instigate or trigger an array of disease symptomology. I'm not a doctor, but that's as explicit as I can get with my language and feel confident that I'm speaking accurately. And yes, I've heard all the statements about how viruses are a lie and they don't exist, but y'all are over there in that bucket next to the people who think that the birds ceased to exist in the 50s and every bird in the world is actually a robot. As a robot from the future, sorry, whiffle, you're too early on that one. Your roboticists and cyberneticists are not there yet, and they sure as fuck weren't there yet in the 60s. But I digress. My problem with the dismissive, ideological arguments minimizing or dismissing disease is yeah, and great, cool, that's your opinion, dude. What if you're wrong? I don't want to get sick and die. I don't want to get sick and have a miserable time and pass it along to people who then pass along to someone who gets sick and dies. The danger with this virus, and the danger with any new, novel, disease-causing virus, is that we don't know even the immediate term effects right away. And while we're struggling to identify it with our flawed science, because I'm not a blind faith science cock gobbler, right? I'm also not a blind faith science denier. I wouldn't be able to use these devices I'm using if science wasn't real. Sorry. There's something to it there. The danger has always been that not knowing what this disease could do, the dumbest thing, the dumbest set of behaviors is to ignore it, minimize it, dismiss it, flat out, pretend it's not real, and then let it rip through the population without implementing any form of mitigation, any kind of risk reduction measure protocols. Because while you're busy figuring out the midterm and long term, I pulled those words out of order. While the society, while the medical industry, as flawed as it may be, is busy figuring out the immediate, short term, the immediate onset, the immediate, how do we deal with it? How do we mitigate it? Is there a cure yet? That's years. There's no cure. The vaccine is not a cure. Whatever else opinion you may have about the vaccine, for better or worse, that must be acknowledged. Where was I going with this? Oh, the danger being that while you're busy figuring all the early onset stuff and early, short-term stuff, which is the next level, right? And then there's midterm. The virus is busy breeding like crazy and doing what? Mutating. Now, The deniers just deny everything. They deny evolution. They deny genetics. So there's no sane conversation to be had there, other than hearing them out about all the ways that they explain away the world and what we experience with alternative explanations, some of which are plausible, some of which even have some truth to them, but are probably being misapplied. None of which solve any of the issues, right? That's my problem with conspiracy theories. So, from the beginning, from the earliest moments that I was aware, excuse me, of reports of, this might be an alarmingly new, robust disease that we should be very worried about. I was, also cognizant of and aware of and worried about the natural inclination for there to be a backlash movement. People tend to just be reactionary. And the fact that is often magnified, if not flat out engineered, by those responsible for the echo chamber phenomena, right? Because why waste your time engineering a disease when you can just hop on the next real life disease and spread a bunch of crazy ideas about it being, about turning you into zombies? Ultimately, here's the thing. While I ramble out of control randomly, now I know this is not apples to apples. This is apples to oranges. But I think it's kind of valid. The Q Trump-related prophecies, despite all the things they claim were proofs and whatever, I mean, the big outstanding claims that never came true, that list is like 0 for 0. From Hillary Clinton getting locked up in the first 100 days, to Trump getting magically re-inaugurated, or riding in with the military for a Trump coup. Those things never happened. And there was a lot of lost prophecy there. There's a lot of claims of things coming up. Lots of sealed indictments that were about to be unleashed. Lots of people that were supposed to be publicly arrested that then were supposedly I guess, it got re-engineered, that they were secretly arrested. Track record's lousy, right? Say what you want about the fear-mongering around COVID. Observably, when the really boring doctors have said conditions are ripe for a surge, there seems to have been a surge. Maybe not exact timing, but close enough that it's troubling. I'm going to see if I can clear this frog in my throat with the longest track of music I can find. Boom. a recent favorite, Cutting Freedom's Chords, a G-Funk remix live Cali Chords audio entertainment track. My voice is not happy with me, folks. Learning lessons the hard way. I've got to do a little bit more vocal warm-up and a little less applying heat to the back of my throat vis-a-vis smoking weed out of a small glass pipe. At any rate, I'm going to wrap this up shorter than usual which is a goal anyways. So there we go. Where was I? I was rambling out of control. So all questions of extremity set aside, like mean average, there's a virus. It's been killing a lot of people. Sure, other things kill more people, but this is preventable because we understand the basic mechanics of how viruses do what they do. While it's great that that the numbers are the numbers are better, we are indeed, it is my concern that we are indeed like fucking it all up, like choosing to do it all like the worst possible way. The party chaos in Florida and other examples around the country. And there's now protests in various European nations about the ongoing lockdowns. And I understand and I empathize. And I usually stand in solidarity with people protesting issues. And I would agree with the bottom line assessment. In fact, I've said it before. The response was, to put it kindly, fumbled, not handled anywhere near as well as it could have. Especially here in Trumptopia, especially when it comes to securing the livelihood of people who, through no fault of their own, are being asked not to work. Like, I could speak volumes to that flaw right there. But I'm not gonna, because my voice is begging me to shut the fuck up. And that little voice in my head that's like, aha, you should have already learned this lesson, mister. I lost my voice for several days because I was lazy about the ritual around how I prepare to do the podcast. It's 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and I'm going to wrap things up with an honest and sincere apology to you, dear listeners, because this is amongst the weakest, if not like the most recent example of a crappy episode. I hardly even made any like headway in terms of the ideas I wanted to discuss. But stick with me because the show will get better. Until next time, friends, begging your forgiveness, this is your humble host saying adieu for now. I'm going to go rest my voice for a couple days and reinvest in relearning the lesson that what I need to do is have a proper vocal warm-up routine and a more well thought out plan to my podcast work cycle. Stick with me, folks, because there's a lot more to talk about and a lot more to explore and a lot more to say on all these issues and on all the ways in which these issues intersect with the one big thing. Excuse me. The one big thing at the center of my passion and the reason for doing this podcast, which is that, the simple idea, the crazy idea that there is, yes, indeed, a spiritual calling of our day and age, and that it isn't coming from this religion or this political group or that political group, but from reality itself. And that it isn't any of the things that we're fighting and killing each other about.
And that is what I've got to say about that. As always, thank you kindly for listening. This has been the Almost Daily ZenCast, with your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zappa. Until next time, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.
That was bad, guys. I apologize. If this was a show you had paid money for and I could give you your money back, I would. But I can't. So, thanks for listening. Tune in for more.